If you are a beginner, one of the best ways to get started is with an internship. In this video, we're going to be talking about what exactly are internships, the different types of internships you might come across if you're in the market for one, how exactly you should apply for one, how they're structured, how much do design internships in India even pay, and a lot more. So let's jump into it. So the first thing I want to start with is what exactly is an internship. Now, it might feel weird, like why do we exactly have to define this? But I think defining internships so we both understand what we're talking about is important at this point, right? So overall, yes, I am a designer, so we are talking about design internships, although some of what we talk about today can probably be applied to general internships. When I say design, I'm talking about product design. And when I say product design, I'm talking about UI, UX skills, right? Ability to make apps and websites. What I'm talking about also probably applies to, let's just say marketing design, which might just be marketing teams within a company or design teams within a company that typically work on marketing stuff. So this might be graphic design. It could also be specialist roles like motion, illustration, 3D, right? This is the type of internships I'm talking about. But what exactly are internships? Let's align on that. Number one, an internship is like a job that pays you, but it's usually capped at a duration of maybe 3 months, 6 months, sometimes even 1 month, right? But much rarer. So it's an opportunity that is entry level, pays you money, lasts for 1 to 3 months, up to 6 months. Typically, it's for people who have just graduated from college. However, even if you've not technically gone to college or if you've dropped out, it applies to you as well. However, keep a note that it's entry level. Even if you are switching jobs, you could apply for internships if you want to get started, or you could directly just apply for jobs. But the reason I bring this up is there is also the idea of unpaid internships as well as the idea of paying for internships. Now, an unpaid internship is one where you're making 0 rupees. And personally, I am not a big fan. I am not a big fan of unpaid internships, and I'll tell you exactly why. When you are working for somebody who's not paying you, you are low priority most of the times. So if I wake up and I have 5 things to do, if I'm not paying you, there is no accountability on my end to give you feedback on time, as an example. Or I will probably have you as the lowest priority because I do not feel that I've paid this person, and so I need to be accountable from my end as well. Unpaid internships can be very unsatisfying, and usually the reason is they don't seem to go anywhere. So in general, internships, you want them to be paid. The type of internships we're talking about are paid internships. Now, the amount for these, typically internships go from 10 to 15K, right? Design internship. This is 10 to 15K usually for something that's remote. Although I have seen internships go from 25 to 40K as well. This is typically when you have to, let's say, move to Bangalore or move to Delhi or something like that. Internships typically don't go higher than this, at least in India. Right? So this is a super low amount. Like this comes out to about $200 a month. And this on the higher end comes to just a couple $100 per month. Now, the point of internships is definitely not to mint a lot of money, right? However, what is similar to an internship, if money is the main goal, is freelance projects. So freelance projects, what makes them similar to internships is they are also usually time-bound. So unlike a full-time job, which is a full contract, which is an indefinite contract, you get hired until something goes wrong. Either we fire you or you quit, you are on contract, you're working full-time. A freelance project or an internship is a capped contract where you're saying we're only going to work together for this duration. In that duration, we might not exactly know what projects you're working on. Maybe there's some clarity, but usually, we figure it out as we go. We want it to feel like full-time, but this is a low risk move because if you are not great as an intern, that's totally okay. You did some work, you worked on a small project in the company, you got paid for it, and maybe you get a full-time job. If not, you can also use the project that you worked on to make a case study that can then be added to your portfolio, right? So an internship is a low risk way. Even if it's not the best company, you are kind of like maybe sus about the team, or will I get enough feedback, or I don't really love this product. It's okay if it's just an internship. You can just give it a shot. It's 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. Do not quit an internship in between. I would say if you're committing to an internship, finish it, right? Usually you will have to sign the duration up front. Finish it, make some money, take the experience, put it on your resume, make a case study out of it. I would definitely suggest that. And use that internship as leverage. It's a real product, real company. Use that to find your next role, whether that's an internship or a freelance. Now, we are talking about this. There is also this idea, and I know this is maybe not so common, but there are people who are like, yeah, we're going to pay for an internship. Like, and I've especially heard this from college students where, I mean, they call it internship. It's like you're paying for an internship, but what you're kind of paying for is this kind of industry project, right? Typically kind of common in colleges. Now, that technically is not an internship. You are paying a company to kind of get training or get a course. Nothing wrong with that, right? Sometimes that might be really good learning for you. However, I would, for these types of things, definitely do your research and talk to alumni. If you are paying for a program, right, whether they call it an internship or not, definitely research alumni. Talk to some people who've done that thing before. Go to their LinkedIn, send them a message, message a few of them. You'll get some responses. Maybe, I don't know, if you know somebody, get a referral. But that is not the kind of internship we're talking about, right? I know there's some companies out there that say, hey, get an internship with us and you pay us money and we put you in a field and we give you a project or something. A lot of those are bullshit. Some of those are just courses, right? They're not really internships. But now that we've cleared these definitions, right? Let's go a little deeper into this. What exactly are internships? How do they work? Now, what we established was internships definitely are fixed duration, right? So typically the way an internship is structured is it's fixed duration. It's 1 month, although these 1 month are typically uncommon. Most companies do not want to hire an intern for 1 month because typically it takes time for you to understand the context, get into the flow of things, understand who the people are, the product that's being designed, and really work on something. 1 month internships are uncommon, and pretty much I might as well just say 1 month internships don't exist. That's how rare they are. Most internships, however, are in the 3 to 6 month range. So this can be remote or it can be in person. These internships, the way it pretty much works is there is an expectation that you pretty much work full time. However, maybe with your manager, you kind of set expectations for, oh, if I have class or something like that. Most people do their internships full time. So if you're going to college and you want to do an internship, of course, in person, bit of a jugaad, right? If you're doing evenings and things like that. Remote, you can still maybe pull it off, but in general, not a good idea to lie, right? Internships typically are supposed to be full-time. You are pretty much like an employee working full-time, and that's the overall structure of these internships, right? Next, let's talk about how do you get these internships. Now, of course, the standard would be if you can directly apply. A lot of companies do post on LinkedIn, like just like a job post, they post design intern or product design intern or UX design intern, graphic design intern. These are some keywords that you can search for on LinkedIn or Angel. We have a video on the channel that we just put out around how do you find jobs. So I would definitely suggest giving that video a look to go deeper into that. However, what I want to talk about is there are definitely indirect ways as well, which is you could get inbound interest. If you are starting out, you could post your case studies, which is, case studies of projects, right? So you could post projects, and typically companies, founders, early stage startups, maybe they find your case study on Twitter or something like that. Even if not, you have now a URL that can be used to refer. I know a lot of designers who've gotten great success this way. Like they might have done some work, right? And they posted this as an article on medium.com or even just as a Twitter thread or something. And after some time, right, maybe within a week, maybe 2-3 weeks later, they got a message saying, hey, I saw your project that you worked on. I am currently looking to hire. And, of course, some of these might end up being like full-time opportunities, but most of the times this is a project. Project typically could be an internship. It could be freelance. Now, if this is getting too complicated for you, I would just say, it kind of depends. A lot of founders, when they reach out, they might not be explicitly hiring for an intern, but what they're looking for is they have some ideas, right? They need design help. They have ideas. They need some design help. They want to work with somebody who has those skills, not just Figma, but also all the other problem solving and like ideation, articulation, those kind of skills. And they want to work on this for, not a crazy amount of time. Like they don't have enough commitment to say, join us full time, but they're like, hey, we could work on this for maybe, this is a very shitty looking calendar icon. Like, hey, we could how long will this take? Like, we do an approximate and maybe it's 2 months. They want this, right? And now and a freelance or internship is basically a container for this, saying there is a founder or there is somebody out there, maybe it's a company, but it's a person at a company who needs this, which is you with your design skills, and they want to get some outcome, right? These ideas are not just random ideas. These are some outcomes that they want, which is maybe they want to launch some product, right? That product, when they launch it, when they maybe get customers for it, becomes a part of the business. It makes them money, right? For this, they want to do something that is right here, low risk, because hiring somebody full-time means you're saying that, hey, you will work for us 8 hours a week. That is, in 12 months in a year. And what that comes to is, hey, if it's a project that is uncertain, I don't really know if I can hire somebody full-time. Although also it might just be a startup. It might not be a full company that's ready to take that risk. Additionally, that's not the only case. Through 10K Designers, we have tons of examples of people who've interned even at big companies, right? We'll talk about that in a sec. But this is overall how it works. Now, this container, right? I use that word container. The container for this could be a freelance project. It could also be an internship. Now, the simple way to understand which of these is going to be is, if you don't know how to make it a freelance project, it's probably going to be an internship. Also, if you're in school or college, it's probably going to be an internship, right? But, if they're looking for more experience, they're looking for somebody who has experience and not exactly an intern, it's more likely to be a freelance project. They're going to try to find somebody who's probably already working as a designer to do a small part-time moonlighting type of project, or they'll say, we want somebody full-time and we're just going to get an intern like this. They could also hire a full-time freelancer, but overall, I hope you're getting the picture. I'm showing you both sides so you can break this down and not just accept some story that I'm telling, right? I'm not telling you a story. I'm showing you all the variables involved. And as a designer, I hope you appreciate that. I hope you're able to appreciate the level of detail we're going through, because with an understanding of this, you can apply the design process. You can apply design thinking and problem solving to finding an internship, right? That's your problem statement. And you can really approach it if you know what these different variables are. So that's what I hope to break down for you in this video. So overall, this is how it works. Now, talking purely from my experience, when I was in college, I did one internship. So the first internship I did, it was at this place called Microsoft Accelerator. It was called Microsoft Ventures back then. And this was a 3-month internship I had done. And it was a design internship, right? How I got this, at this point, I don't really remember, but it was some jugaad, right? Basically, Ventures was the startups arm, right? So my role over here, of course, I didn't know what my role was getting into it, but I knew it was going to be something to do with startups, because Microsoft Ventures, they ran an accelerator program that had, I think, maybe 20 to 40 startups per batch or something like that. And they had access to a certain office and mentorship, Azure credits, all that stuff, right? This was a while back. So I did this internship. This was in person. So this was in Bangalore, in Microsoft's office. It was 3 months. I was in college, so I kind of did this during my summer break. And this was my first kind of internship experience. The reason I also got it was because I had somewhat of a portfolio, right? I had a portfolio. Now, of course, I don't know if I'll be able to show that. It's really old. I don't even know what it was. But this was my website back then, and this was roughly my portfolio. I'd done a few freelance projects, right? I had some stuff to show that, hey, you are not going to have to train me. You are not going to have to spend your valuable time training somebody who doesn't know anything, right? That's what I had to prove to be able to get this internship. And the way I proved that was with my portfolio, and my portfolio had some projects from, I was freelancing when I was in college. So when I was there, during these 3 months, I worked on primarily 2 things. The first thing was I actually worked on an internal Microsoft tool that was used almost as a search and index directory for Microsoft Ventures, right? So not an official tool in the sense of being launched to all Microsoft customers or something. It was purely an internal tool. And I did a little bit of front-end dev. I wrote some code as well. I designed and wrote some code for this. Although that was not the expectation. I kind of went above and beyond there. But that was the first thing that I worked on. And the second thing that I worked on was the startups that were a part of this. I had to help them with problem solving and design. Now, although I was relatively new, at this point with my freelance experience being in second year of college, I had enough understanding to be able to talk, right? To be able to talk to founders and say, what exactly is the problem statement? What are you looking for? Hey, I think, okay, oh, you're working on an app? Okay, I think if this is your goal, you want to get users, you should probably work on features that do this, right? Like I knew enough to be able to have that conversation, to brainstorm and actually do some design work, right? So I was kind of like floating between a couple of companies. And so that was my experience. I also did another internship, which was at a startup called Yellow that was later acquired. This was also in Bangalore. I think I did this for roughly 3 to 9 months. Like, so some part of this was during my holidays, so I was in Bangalore. But the rest of it was kind of just online. And I designed that entire app. I designed the entire website. I think I was getting paid for this maybe 15K per month. But this was another internship that I did, right? So during college, these were kind of the two internships. And I also, of course, did a lot of freelance projects. So in addition to this, I have designed, like just during that time, those couple of years, I've designed at least 10 to 15 apps, right? For different companies, different startups. Some of them didn't even launch. Some of them launched, don't exist today. Most of them don't exist today, to be honest. But eventually, you know, as I left college, I kind of started focusing more on Indian startups, right? These were mostly freelancing clients that I was able to get from the US using sites like Upwork. The more interesting thing for you that I think you're going to find is as part of 10K designers. Now we have done 6 cohorts so far. 6 cohorts. We've had a couple hundred designers go through these cohorts. 100 out of 10,000 designers is who you help? No. I'm just trying to make a point that my company 10K designers, we run a cohort, the link details of which you can find below. C7 is about to start in a few weeks. So applications will open, let me just say May 2023. Check that out. But as part of this, I've directly helped hundreds of designers get internships. Now, when I say that, I don't mean in terms of setting, कि मैंने setting करवा दी इनकी और bro मैं भैया से बात करो ना internship setting. No. That's not what I mean. What I mean is over this 3-month duration, we worked on projects, we did case studies, right? It's a cohort-based course. That's what it actually is. And we have people who've interned at some amazing startups that you've heard of. I'm just going to show them on the screen. Now, to give you a general perspective, a lot of these are remote. A lot of these are in person. Remote internships typically pay you in the 10 to 15K range. In person, of course, and when I say 10 to 15K, I mean 10 to 15K per month of the internship, just to make it very, very clear. In person, I have seen startups that make an offer of something similar for in person as well. So if you are interviewing and you're in the final round and, you know, the company says, hey, the stipend for this is 15K. And, you know, if you're in the final round and they say that most of the times, you know, you will say, hey, 15K is not enough for me to move to Bangalore, pay for expenses, pay for rent, PG, whatever. Can we do 25K? Can we do 35K? Can we do 40K? So I have in general seen in-person internships go to 25, 40K. Now you might be wondering, Abhinav, wait, if they were offering 10 to 15K, what kind of negotiation do I need to do to get them to 25 to 40K? Now here's the very simple answer around this. If you make it through the interview process, it probably means your work is good, right? So your work is good. It's kind of, you know, the team that is hiring, they talk to you, they're like, we want to work with this person. They have some rough idea of what products you will be working on, right? Usually as an intern, you probably work on features, right? So you work on specific features within the app. So a 3-month internship, you might work on maybe 1 or 2 features, something like that. So in general, if you've made it to the final round, most of the times, right, they'd be willing, like they're not unreasonable, right? They would be willing to just say, hey, okay, we do 25 to 40K. In the case that they don't, however, it comes down to personal choice, right? Now, of course, I can't tell you that take something that, you know, pays 5K per month. There, you might be thinking, what about the people, you know, I interviewed, you might say, and they said, I'll only pay you 5,000 per month, right? What about that? Just because you've not come across a project or an internship that pays 10 to 15 or 25, 40 doesn't mean it does not exist, right? However, to some extent, you're taking my word for it, right? Because you are here, you're watching this. There will definitely be people who try to lowball, who try to say, hey, 5,000 rupees a month, that's all I have, you in or not. And unfortunately, the truth is there is a lot of supply out there, right? There will always be some people who are willing to do it for cheap or for free. And if you get one of these opportunities and you think to yourself, I don't really have any other options. So it's either 0 or 5K per month. So what should I do? In that case, I would say probably go for the very cheap thing, right? However, I am not advocating that you go for such cheapo opportunities. That's low ball, right? If you're a designer and you're only able to get 5K per month internship, it means you're not good enough yet. So what you're getting is kind of consolation prices, right? People who kind of want the cheapest thing and they're like, yeah, okay, let's just find somebody who agrees to this. You can definitely within, like, let's say if you're learning design, within a couple of months, like 3 to 6 months, you could definitely get an internship that pays you this much, right? So I hope that cleared it up, by the way. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about here, features. That's typically what you work on. Or let's say if you're a different type of intern, right? Not exactly a product intern. What you just work on is just projects. And let me just make it clear. These are real projects that you work on, right? So let's say if you're a graphic design intern, the project that might be given to you is, hey, we have our Instagram account and we're starting a new type of campaign on it and we need you to make posts or something like that, right? It could be anything. But that is what an internship is overall. So with all this in mind, let's answer a couple questions around internships. How do you find internships? The inbound method is how internships find you. And the way to do that is you post your work. And over time, this converts into messages. You want to take these inbound messages that you're getting, right? And I've talked about this before. You do discovery calls, right? If you don't know what exactly to ask during a discovery call, if you're in the cohort, check it out. Otherwise, talk to ChatGPT, right? This is a very standard process. Freelancers all over the world follow this process. They post work. The call to action is set up a discovery call, a 15-minute call. You just put a Calendly embed or something like that. They book a call with you. You show up on this call. You ask a couple questions. You say, okay. They ask you a couple questions. Okay. After this call, you send them a proposal, and that's typically how it works, right? That's how it works overall, the process. That's how you find internships. Do you really need internships? Now, the need here, no, you don't need anything. You don't need internships, but internships can be useful because let's say you are new, you're a newbie. Internships are good because there is always that chicken and egg problem, right? This is the worst chicken, but editors, please put a nicer graphic here. Please put a nicer graphic. And the chicken and egg problem is that most jobs that you apply to, they say you need experience, but to get experience, you need a job, and that can keep going infinitely. So internships are one solution to this, which is, yes, they don't, the key note here as an internship is not for somebody with zero experience, right? So the chicken and egg to some extent still applies here, which is you cannot get an internship without a portfolio. And when I say this, I mean in probabilistic terms. What do I mean by that? Yeah, of course, exceptional people, I've seen a lot of people get without portfolio, right? Let's say you're friends with the founder, you guys smoke up every evening in Koramangala or something. Yeah, you're getting an internship without portfolio, bro. And that's not a bad thing, right? That's you making moves in the world. But you do need a portfolio. And the reason for this is portfolio shows that you worked on projects. Now, again, you might be thinking chicken and egg. These can be fake projects, right? These can be just projects that you've done to demonstrate your skill. You've taken a certain scenario and you've designed something fictional, right? But when you do these projects, having this shows roughly something that I like to call proof of work, which is the biggest risk in hiring an intern, right? Let's flip it around. The biggest risk in hiring an intern is all the time that I might have to spend teaching and managing them. Now, again, note that it's not that you spend zero time teaching and managing. There will always be, if you're hiring somebody and you're paying them, of course you're going to spend your time, bro. Of course you're going to spend your time training them. That's normal. But if you are at zero experience, that's too much training. This person who's hiring you, keep in mind that they have a job as well. Even if they're the founder, their job is to run the company. So when they're hiring you, they cannot leave their job and focus everything to work on you, right? So you need to come already with experience. And so getting an internship can be that experience that helps you level up from the level of intern to full-time job, right? And this could be the ladder that you take, right? Maybe if you're at zero, jumping to full-time directly might be difficult for you. Maybe you are not so confident. Maybe you feel like you need to work with other designers. Maybe you feel like you need some skills. It's definitely possible to go from zero to a full-time job in under a year, right? Conservatively, in under a year, you could do that. But typically, the easier route, the smooth slope, is you apply for an internship and now full-time. Another note, however, around this chicken and egg problem, cohort-based courses, right? So cohort-based courses in some ways are structured like an internship. They're not internships, by the way. They're structured like an internship in the sense that it's a 3-month program, right? Every week you have something that you work on, right? And so this has become month 1, this becomes month 2, this becomes month 3. And the reason I say they're like internships is every month you kind of have something to work on. And the reason I draw boxes is because I'm kind of imagining that as you're building a product, right? You're building a product. In addition, however, they also teach you how to do it, right? So that's where the course part of this comes in. So for example, as part of our cohort, we do live sessions where me personally, every Wednesday and every Saturday, we sit down and we have a specific curriculum that we follow. We do live sessions, live activities, live breakdown and whatever. And you do this socially. So in the same way that in internship, there's a certain network of people you need to involve with, not just the person who's hiring you, but also maybe the engineers you're working with your other design members. Similarly, a cohort-based course is a bit of a social experience, right? Of course, there's meetups, a lot of meetups, showing them on screen. There's meetups, but there's a social element, which is all these sessions are live. Now they're online, but they're live, and there's class groups and that whole dynamic there. There are also kind of group projects where sometimes you have to work with people, and overall, it's not just peers, but there is also mentors. So we, for example, have mentors that we assign to these projects, but some of these live sessions we also do feedback sessions where it's literally me personally and another designer that I bring on board with me, and together what we do is we give you feedback on real projects, right? And there's real projects that you work on. So a cohort-based course, the reason I tell you this is you might be thinking, oh, you're just marketing your course, but I want to just tell you this because I'm a designer, bro, and I have actually designed my course to have these, let's just say, benefits, because me personally, I have gone through this journey and I know exactly what it takes and exactly how tough things are today. I do not think when I was starting out, I had this view of all this stuff. When I was starting out, I was just figuring stuff out. But today, looking back, I know what it takes, and having gone through 6 cohorts over the last 3 years, let me just say I have a good understanding of what it's like today. So that's a small note just to tell you a little bit about the structure and how it works. Now, the reason I brought this up is because of this reason here, which is 0 to full-time can be a very steep slope for some people. And so an internship is one way you could do it. Another way you could do it is you could go from 0 to actually being in a CBC, a cohort-based course like 10K Designers. And this will help you build the projects, right? So you do the projects, you convert those projects into case studies. The case studies, you put them together as a portfolio. You now also have a network, other designers that you can, talk to, people who are going through a similar journey, people who are way ahead if you're already working at the companies you want to be working at. And so the path then becomes you go from 0 to enrolling in one of these CBCs, and then from here you get an internship, and then you go to full-time. Or sometimes what ends up happening is you go from CBC to full-time. Given that it's a CBC, given it's so social, and given that myself, I'm a startup founder, I have of course seen a lot of people who see CBCs and who specifically go through the 10K Designers cohort, and they're so motivated that they decide to do a startup of themselves, or they decide to go the freelance or like the solo creator, solopreneur route. So in that case, I highly encourage that, by the way, because personally, I think we need more people taking these kinds of risks, becoming a startup founder, becoming a freelancer. And the good news is a lot of them do end up then hiring interns from their own batch. So literally from the cohorts itself. And we help them do that. So, good all around, positive all around. But now that we've talked about all of this, you might be thinking, you've told us the process on how to apply, how these are structured, unpaid versus paid, how the psychology of the person who's hiring the intern, it's low risk for them. They have some idea in mind. They want you to work on it. We talked about how you apply for it, the process of directly applying, also the process of how do you convert inbound leads, right? Publishing your work out there, whether it's videos or case studies. And of course, I talked about some of my personal experience. But overall, you might be thinking, what about the recession, right? Are companies still hiring interns? Now, the main note I want to make here is that in any industry, right, every year you have a certain number of people graduating, people who want to enter the industry, who want to apply for these roles, who want to build a career in a particular industry, in this case, design. Now, it's very important that companies maintain entry-level positions, right? So let's say we draw a spectrum over here of 0 to 3 year experience, 3 to 5, and then let's just say 5+, right? Of course, as a company grows, they will hire for this area, right? This is design leadership. Or in a lot of cases, the design leadership might not always be heads of design. It might be a head of product that you work with, a head of engineering, maybe the founders directly, but that is late stage, right? Of course, it is cheaper to hire in this range, right? 0 to 3, it's cheaper, but sometimes it can carry higher risk, which is you are taking a risk by hiring somebody who has less experience, right? Simple as that. Overall, people would want to hire somebody with experience already, right? Maybe they want to hire a designer who's worked at a good company, and so they can be confident that they know the processes, they know how things work in real life, in the industry. But this 3 to 5 is very expensive because somebody who's already working at Razorpay, already working at Swiggy, right? And I know I keep taking these 2 examples, but you can substitute that with whatever you think is example of great design, a place where you would want to be. People who are already working in those companies don't want to join new companies. But as economies grow, there's always new companies that are started, right? One thing a lot of people miss out on, and sometimes it's unconscious, is they think that this is some kind of rat race where there is a fixed supply of jobs and everybody is competing for the same jobs. That's not true, right? In the same way that every year new graduates are entering the industry with things like AI, with technology as it moves forward, with smartphones. You and I saw over the last year how geo and cheap smartphones made, technology grow like crazy in India. Everybody uses the internet today, right? Most people use some apps on it. So who creates these apps? It's usually not the companies of the past, right? To capitalize on these new paradigm shifts, there are more companies that are created, right? And these are startups. Now, these startups go up. And who are these startups created by? These are usually founders who are at these existing companies, right? So old companies, and they are like, hey, you know what? This company, they're old, they're not using AI, right? And we feel that in this field with AI, we can make a lot of crazy value, right? We can create a lot of value for customers, for the country, for businesses, for whoever the target audience is. And so these founders decide to start their own companies. And coming back to this hiring, why I'm giving you this whole picture is, number one, I want you to think for yourself, which is why I want to give you all these variables so you can independently think about them. But number two, it's because these founders typically, hire from their companies itself, right? So if a founder is at Razorpay and they want to start a new fintech startup, they will probably try to hire a designer within Razorpay itself, right? But however, somebody with Razorpay is making a lot of money, right? So they're more expensive. So this band right here is expensive. In recession, I'll make another video about this where I go deeper. And I have talked about this in some of my previous videos. Do check that out. But typically in recession, the overall idea is let's reduce risk. In the sense that we might have to do layoffs, right? This is how companies think. We might have to do layoffs. We might have to really focus on our core business. Let's reduce risk. And unfortunately, it's a risk hiring early stage design talent. So to answer this question, are companies still hiring interns? The answer is yes, but yes, they are, because let's just say a company does need early stage talent. It's important for design as an industry, for example, to have companies that are supporting early stage talent. Otherwise, the middle causes a shortage in the industry, right? So new startups find it much harder to launch if they don't have the available talent to them, right? That's typically when they go to the 0 to 3. Overall, yes, they are, but risk is the main thing, right? So for you, what that might mean is on these platforms like LinkedIn and AngelList, the number of internships might be low and the number of people who apply for these internships might be high. So what you will have to do is, number one, you want to, as much as possible, make your application super strong, which means having a portfolio attached with it, having your case studies. But other than that, see if there is something you can do to reduce that risk. And portfolio and case study, by the way, are great ways to do that. If I am a founder and I am thinking about, I really have this idea for something, but my current team is working on the core product and I want to work on, whatever reason they might have, the first thing they're going to do is probably not post on these job boards like LinkedIn. The first thing they're going to do is they're going to go to their network and they're going to see, can I find somebody quickly that I trusted network? Can I just go there? And, in the case that I'm not able to do this immediately, then I might, let me just post on LinkedIn. So your goal is to find an internship here. What that means is maybe being a little bit more active on maybe Twitter, trying to figure out how can you be seen by this group. But in addition to that, I would say one of the biggest opportunities for designers today is using the internet to grow their personal brand, to grow the number of portfolio and case studies, their work on the internet that gets them discovered. And this is exactly what we talked about in just the previous video. So definitely check that out to get a full picture. Overall, I hope this was useful to you. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope if you're in a position where you're in college, here's my advice to you. Look for internships that you can do during your breaks. So your maybe winter breaks or summer breaks, depending on what's longer. In addition to that, use these internships because you can return for internships. So this year, if you do an internship at a company, you can come back the next year and maybe do an internship again because they already trust you at this point, right? And that can eventually convert to a full-time job once you've graduated. Other than that, if you are in college, maximize your chances of getting these internships. And what that comes down to is working on projects. And these can be maybe fun projects you do. Maybe it's a hackathon project. maybe you and your friend are like, hey, this AI thing is pretty cool. Can we just make a demo? Can we design some cool, interesting, fun, whatever? It doesn't have to be something crazy that goes to millions of users. It's a fun project that you do. And that is the highest signal that this person that I'm hiring is passionate about their stuff. They're doing design because they just love it. They're working in tech, they're working in startups, they're working and building these products because they just love it. So as a student, definitely work on projects, convert some of that into case studies, portfolio, even a personal website if you're so inclined. I wish you the best of luck. Check out the other videos on the channel if you want to see more. Applications for cohort 7 open in a couple of weeks as of releasing this video. Keep an eye out and hope to see you somewhere else on the internet. Bye-bye.